Jonah had forgotten that God's ultimate purpose for Israel was to be a blessing to the Gentiles. He has forgotten that God's purpose was that the Jews were also to help to bring some knowledge of God to the Gentiles. Jonah had forgotten that even when God called Abraham out and God blessed Abraham, the Lord told Abraham that Abraham was going to be a source of blessing to the entire earth. Jonah, because of prejudice and hatred, forgot all of this. And it's important for us to also note that Christ has called the church to fulfill even a greater missionary task than that of Jonah. We have been called to go into the whole world with the gospel. And we see that in Matthew 28 verses 18 to 20. And then we see it also in Acts chapter 1 verse 8. So that command is on us. The Great Commission, the call that we should take the gospel to the uttermost part of the earth, is on us both as the body of Christ and as individual Christians. But like Jonah, however, many churches and many of us Christians have little interest in this Great Commission. We are concerned with building our own kingdoms at home and focus on doing our own things. So Jonah then set out to run away from God. But it's interesting to see that you really cannot run away from this God. He can reach out to you. He can get you anywhere you go to. And this was what we saw in the case of Jonah. And Jonah went to Joppa and took a ship. And the guy went right to the base of the deck and decided to chill out there. And the guy was just sleeping away. God was at work. We hear of storms, but when God decides to send a storm, then that is a serious issue. On this occasion, God sent a storm, and Jonah was deep asleep. I pray that we will not be asleep and try to sleep through the storm. But again, when God sends a storm targeted at us, we can't sleep through it. So the guys went down, the sailors went and said, "Hey man, look, you better wake up. Come and call on your God. Perhaps he will deliver us from this storm, so we all do not perish." And then Jonah got up. He didn't own up immediately. They had to cast lots. It fell on him. And he knew that the game was up. The game was up for him. Because of Jonah's disobedience, the lives of the sailor aboard the ship were at great risk. But it's interesting to see that Jonah then offered that, "Look, I am the cause of this. Just throw me into the sea." One thing I have not been able to ascertain, I reckon that Jonah would know that he serves a great God. And if it pleases God to preserve his life, the Lord will do so. So they threw Jonah into the sea. But one key thing that I want us to note as we progress is that we need to be careful the lives that we live. Because if we are reckless or we continue to live in disobedience, we can put the lives of our families and perhaps even those around us at great risk. And this was what Jonah did. If we are not fully committed to God and His will for our lives, our family and others around us will ultimately suffer as well. Sometimes things become difficult for all when the believer fails to live as God commands. The sailors were in trouble because of Jonah. And as I was writing this message, I kept thinking, what role are we believers playing in the challenges that our country, Nigeria, is going through? Are we Christians living the way we ought to live? And I believe that if we Christians can truly live as lights and shine as lights in this nation, the fortunes of our country will begin to change. I think we need to do very careful soul search as Christians, as individual Christians, as the body of Christ in this country. And if we have erred, we need to retrace our steps. And I think that will begin the process of healing for our nation.